Now, the thing is,
wow, I'm surprised. That was my first time eating a flower.
there you go.
Try new things every day. Hello, welcome back. We're gonna show you part 2 of this video. So that's right, us walking around this awesome place, taking a look at some cool plants, educating you on a bunch of stuff, really. I hope you guys enjoy.
So one of the things that's really amazing about plant groups and at our nursery too is all of the different colors and textures. And I just love when you see one being contrasted, one color against the next. And that's even actually a good principle in landscaping. Instead of onesies, twosies here and there everywhere, it's really nice to take a whole group of a color or a texture and kind of drift it or put it in a wave and then another color. For example, look at the impact that these golden barrel cactus have. Golden barrels are kind of one of the iconic cactus of the cactus family. And we stop here because we've got really a nice group of them, and we actually are having a special on them right now. But I just wanted to tell you, do you know what the other name of this golden barrel cactus is?
Which one? The common name or the scientific name?
No, there's another common name. It's called the mother-in-law's chair. And the mother-in-law is allowed to disseminate advice as long as she remains seated. You know, I have to admit, I'm fairly bold. You probably didn't think I had the spine to say that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's head on down.
Oh, wow, that's good.
So one of the plant areas that we love and is very large for us is perennials.
Okay.
Perennials are any plant that just keeps coming. In other words, you can have an annual plant like a marigold or a petunia that only lives like one season, like maybe a few months in summer or something like that. But perennial plants are plants that repeat. They just keep growing. They may die down in the winter and come back. And the perennials are pretty much the plant group that are the butterfly feeders as well. So we have a lot of salvias, or the sage family, for example, in all different colors of flowers, and just attract masses of pollinators, butterflies, hummingbirds, angry moths. Moths are always angry because the butterflies and the hummingbirds get a lot more attention. In fact, moths will probably go extinct.
Really?
Because you see, they can't reproduce. You have a male moth, and a female moth would be a myth, right? So if they're a myth, that means they don't exist, so they can't reproduce. Let's look at these colors right here.
Yeah.
This is a plant.
On here?
This is kind of representative of what we do a lot. We introduce plant materials to the trade. A lot of times it may be a plant that we developed right here, or is very unique, or that we found just, subtle in somebody's small nursery or a backyard and realized it had great potential, and then we started propagating and producing it. So I love this snowflake plant right here. This is called snowflake plant, Centaurea ragusina, and this is hardy down to 0 degrees.
0 degrees.
And it grows in this beautiful mound and just looks like a giant snowflake in your garden. And look at the color contrast. And then we're going to walk over and past our sages. We have a whole area that's just dedicated to pollinator plants, and also coming up soon are going to be all of our milkweeds that are food and fodder for those crazy hungry caterpillars, and so we'll be supplying those habits as well. But if you look over this area here, these are all different kinds of salvias, sages. Some are what we call crayon sages, others are like some cold hardy varieties that almost work as a natives type plant in different environments like New Mexico, Utah, mountainous terrain and stuff like that. And these bloom all warm season long. Now if you're in a really cold climate, some of them may die down to the ground and then come back up in the following spring. So, but they're just beautiful, beautiful flowers.
Earlier when I was asking like, hey, how do you know if a plant is dead or not, and you mentioned that these kind of die down, is there like a key sign that you look for that's like, hey, we don't, like sometimes people will just literally throw them away. And what's like a sign that you may not need to throw it away, that it could come back in the
Well, a perennial that dies down in the cold in the wintertime, if you were to like dig in a bit, you'd see live tissues and buds and things like that. but much easier than having to dig in is just look up the plant, and it'll, you know, you can get the information on what it is.
Okay.
And once you know that it's a perennial that goes to the ground with the cold, freezes to the ground a lot of times, and comes back up, you're good to go. It's just pretty easy information to get these days.
In other words, get educated, know what it looks like.
Helps.
Once you got that education, you'll be good for life.
It helps, absolutely. Another area that we're really strong in is what we call our landscape roses. Now, these are not grandma's fancy hybrid tea roses, but these are roses that you just think of as a bush that flowers, and you can't make them stop flowering. And so these are roses that would just be planted in a landscape, very little maintenance. I mean, I don't do any of that special fancy pruning. I get out the chainsaw with a 30-inch blade and just buzz it down 2 or 3 times a year. Now, in warm climate in California, you prune like that all through the warm season. In cold climates, you know, you kind of prune in the spring and maybe one more in midsummer a little bit. But these, you just, you know, hacksaw it down. It's no special fancy pruning or anything. And look at the masses of flowers.
Wow.
So we're not going for that individual, you know, I got my girlfriend a rosebud rose, but we're going for just masses of color.
Wow.
That doesn't stop. It just keeps going
Beautiful.
all of the warm season long. And these are all hardy. They're not sensitive to super cold like grafted roses are. Some grafted roses you can't grow in our coldest climates because the graft doesn't hold up. But these are all on their own roots, and so they can be planted any state, any climate, and they hold up beautifully, and they can tolerate extreme cold as well.
Beautiful. Are these rosemary?
This is rosemary.
Wow.
Well, we have some larger in 5-gallon size.
Can I use this to base my steaks?
Well, here's the thing. We have them in larger size, and then this is Rosemary's baby. Yeah, in fact, rosemary we love, and we're going to be doing a YouTube video a little later in the summer when your homegrown your homegrown tomatoes start coming in and they have real flavor. You know, not the plastic ones from the grocery store, because I have invented the most delicious, best tomato sandwich recipe with fresh rosemary that you've ever dreamed
that
of.
sounds so good.
And so we're going to have a little cooking video that we'll do a little later in the season when it's tomato season.
I love that.
Now you can see we have this immense hill that kind of backdrops the nursery. And again, look at all the different color contrasts of one variety of succulent to another variety of succulent. Some of those varieties are completely fireproof. And you know, fire is a big concern these days in Southern California, obviously. And so if folks want to look at plants that literally provide safety, fire safety, and assist in preventing damage to fire moving through yards and homes and stuff like that, go to our website and click on plants, and then scroll down and click on the hot shots. And we have a video where we literally tested these different varieties of succulents with 13, 14, 15-foot flames right at them and on them, and it didn't even make them steam.
Could you like
so
put your house and like
burn.
do like a moat around it?
Well, to a degree, yeah. You know, in other words, like we have an exposure that's from the Santa Ana winds, which usually come from the east. So people have these properties, and we have a variety of an elephant's food bush that grows to be 8 to 10 feet tall.
Wow.
And is absolutely fireproof. You cannot get it to burn.
Wow.
And so if you have a big hedge and it's a great hedge plant, then yes, you have that barrier. And it can't stop flying embers, of course.
Yeah.
But in fire situations, there's two things that really transport fire. One is the wind blowing this river of almost plasma river of embers just flowing at 2 to 3 feet off the ground. Well, these grow so dense and so thick that it actually captures a good portion of that and creates some safety that way. And then the other way is just moving fire, and especially in the suburban environment where we had such huge, terrible burning in Los Angeles, and it was the vinyl fences and the wood fences that catch fire, and those go up and produce a huge amount of energy and heat. And so if you have these solid waterproof hedges, fireproof hedges, then that really can either replace or mitigate that a lot.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the reason that it works is, remember, they're succulent plants. What is a succulent? A succulent is any plant that stores water in its tissues, and you can't make it burn. And so this is actually very, very helpful in compliance these days with areas that you have to have, like you get a new home and you have to comply with what plants can be there, whether they're fire dangerous or not. And another thing where it's helpful is when your insurance company comes around and decides whether they're even going to insure you or not. And you would be able to say, well, you know what? We have all of these fireproof plants that are part of our landscape that create some safety barriers that are non-flammable, that, I mean, you could literally pour diesel on them. They're not going to burn. And
Wow.
they steam, but they don't burn.
Wow.
And so it could be very helpful in
amazing.
gaining some protection for your home.
That's a hot fire tip right there.
That's a hot shot tip, fire tip right there.
Tom, can you talk to me about this little project that you got going on here? I look at that and I'm just like, that is like, to me, that's beautiful. I just look at that all day and just feel like, I'm just mesmerized by it. So.
Well, if you look at it, it's a mound, right?
Yeah.
So the soil is mounded, and then it's has a beautiful application of succulent plants to it that have had some time to develop now. This design here was created by Laura Eubanks, and her company is Design for Serenity. And she's like, she's a well-known figure in succulent landscaping, probably one of the top ones throughout California. And she's just a master at making, creating literal succulent bouquets. And she has kind of some of her own systematic application to it. And then continued maintenance and care, where she'll go to a home 2 or 3 times a year and just do a maintenance through.
Wow.
And then that's all it takes. And so now you got, in many of these homes and properties.
Wait, so you're saying you only got to take care of something this beautiful like 2 to 3 times a year?
Well, yeah, because other than
man.
watering and of course weed prevention, there's just some little snipping and pruning and a little bit of resetting here and there that takes place. That's all there is to it. That's one of the beauties of landscaping with these plants, is not only are they water-wise, but they're low maintenance.
Yeah, which is good for people like me who forget to do a bunch of stuff, huh?
Yeah, but Laura's absolutely famous. She does this to the stars. She's done it all over the state of California. And talk about knowledgeable. I mean, that's really where she's one of the top people who have made cactus and succulents become kind of a common thing in California.
If you had to guess, Tom, how old would you say a lot of these plants are on this mound?
Oh, I don't have to guess. She did this, she put it in pretty much young plants, container plants from us, I think, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Goes pretty fast.
Cool.
So it's, you know, a lot of our plants are excellent as container plants. And it's nice to have a little pot, you know, on your patio or your porch, and you plant some nice little, maybe some succulents and some perennials together. And nothing like having a giant pot.
Yeah, look at the size of this. Woo!
So this has kind of a crazy story behind it. About 4 or 5 years ago, Carly, who works for us, calls me up and she said, somebody wants to give us a large pot. And I go, yeah, whatever, you know. I mean, because people want to give us turtles, they want to give us, you know, it's just, we have people want to give us stuff. I didn't know what it was or how it looked or anything. And so I just said, yeah, well, just have them put it back in the corner and I'll take a look at it when I get back. Well, when I came back and I saw it, I just about dropped dead. I mean, that is
so
a
cool.
giant pot. And I'm going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with this? This is a nightmare. I mean, what do you do with something like that? It was like the Methuselah in the middle of a kiddie park. Well, I sat there and stared at it and remained angry for a few weeks. And all of a sudden I had this inspiration. I thought, what if we were to take the giant pot and bring it right out to where it can be seen from people passing on the highway and right out visible from every angle in the nursery and plant it up with giant plants. And so now it's in about its 4th, 5th year. And again, it's at the point where it needs one of those maintenances. We're going to have to go in and kind of chop out some of the stuff that's overgrown a little bit, clean it up, scale it out again, get some new representative plants in it.
I
But
want one.
It's totally
I want one at
fascinating.
my house.
Yeah, we can drop one of these off at anybody's patio. You just let us know.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You can have it for free, but you have to carry it out yourself.
Oh, jeez. It makes me feel like I just climbed like Jack's beanstalk.
No
and
kidding,
like,
right?
Like it's great.
It's so much fun.
Nice.
So what I thought was going to be a nightmare and a big old pain in the butt actually turned out to be a really fun, friendly feature for us.
Is there drainage holes on the bottom of this?
Oh yeah.
And is this a
Has to be.
terracotta pot?
No, it's actually cement.
Oh.
It's cement composite, and then it's painted terracotta.
Okay.
Yeah.
That thing is massive.
As we come along here, you're going to see that I'm returning to my roots, which when you're a nurseryman is more prophetic than with most people saying that. But my roots were Daylily Hill, and all of my best selection of our hybrid evergreen daylilies. And I've always kept some, set aside plants of all the varieties that we had in that program. And now they're becoming very popular again. They're a durable plant. They bloom humongously and rebloom all through spring, summer, fall. And so we're starting to bring that program on again. And here's one of the interesting things about it. You know, times are getting tough these days. And you never know when you're just going to have to end up eating your plants.
Holy
because
moly.
daylily flowers are delicious.
Can I have a bite?
Yeah, I'll peddle one to you.
Thank you.
Now, the thing is,
wow, I'm surprised. It tastes pretty
the
good.
thing is that I haven't been able to have the flavors coordinate with the colors. Like I'd like orange to taste like orange and yellow to taste like lemon. But I'll tell you something. If you have a big punch bowl in a party or a wedding or something like that, take out the stamens that have the pollen on them, because some people sneeze at that, and you can float these right in your punch bowl.
Oh, that's beautiful.
All different colors, and they last the whole day, the whole evening, and that way you can have your punch and eat it too.
Wow.
Oh, and if you're really hungry and times are tough, then you can also cut off the leaves, dig up the roots, and the roots are edible as well.
Wow.
It's kind of like a daylily jicama.
That was my first time eating a flower.
There you go.
Try new things every day.
It's actually interesting. You know, we have a lot of plants that are edible. The whole elephant's food bush family, of which we grow several varieties, the leaves of those are edible.
Really?
They're very tart. So it's kind of like those sour candies that kids like to get.
Oh, yeah.
They're very tart. Yeah, there's just different plants that we actually have here that you could kind of survive on if you needed to.
Nice. Cool.
We also have a selection of ornamental grasses, many varieties of which we've introduced to the trade. We like to have ornamental grasses that don't look like weeds when they're not looking their best. And we also like ornamental grasses that are not invasive species. So that's what we focus on with those. Okay, so this is kind of what we call our columnar cactus zone.
Oh yeah, getting into the cacti.
In the foreground, these lower varieties are all different varieties of hybrid Trichocereus. Now they call them Echinopsis, but I refuse to cooperate. And these, just a few days ago, were covered with every color imaginable of huge blooms. And they're going to do it again. Because if you look at this little woolly thing on the tip, that's not a creature that's eating it. That's actually another bud forming. And they just keep reforming buds and buds. And then they'll flower and explode in flowers for a couple of days, take a breather, and then explode again. And for some reason, they all seem to be timed so that no matter what variety or color, like they're all not flowering now, and then there's going to be a time in a week or so where they're all flowering again. It's kind of wild.
Wow.
So I guess it's kind of like going to a rave party for cactus. Not that I would know what a rave party is. So we have varieties that could grow to be 10, 15-foot columns. Many of those varieties that are cold hardy in zones where it gets down to the low teens, which gives them a lot of extension in different people's areas. And then, of course, these varieties of these hybrids stay in clumps like a hedgehog cactus. So cold climate people, if they have any kind of taken a crack at growing cactus and stuff, have kind of found and been familiarized with cactus species that are more compact. You know, so they have in pots and things like that, not necessarily so much as a landscape element where they really have size and impact. Well, look at this guy here. This is a hybrid that we introduced to the trade that we call the firecracker torch. And it is a Cleistocactus genus of plant. And look how it's covered with flowers. This can be grown in temperatures to almost single-digit cold.
Wow.
So all of the Texans, the South Utahnians, some New Mexicans, things like that, can now have really structural cactus in their landscape that has some height to it and really some specimen accent to it. And if you get just right and look at these with the sunlight behind, even when they're not blooming, they have this aura of these spines that are just capturing the light, and especially if we look over at these ones here. And in fact, this is going to be a new line. There's a little group of different colored ones. Walk on down further just a little bit there. See there? Now look at those. That's more, their varieties more selected for their spine color. And in fact, we have white ones, yellow ones, and red spines. And we're going to start planting those and selling those in combo in one pot. And it's going to be called Blondes, Irish, and silver singles. Because you get all three colors in it. And
how big do these get?
This is about maximum height. When they're full height, they'll get to be about 4 or 5 feet tall, but they keep branching from the base and making fuller and fuller clusters of columns. Just absolutely beautiful and real high impact plants in the landscape.
How do these do with like, so let's say one's growing and then you get a piece that's kind of like leaning over, and is it best to just like cut it off and do cuttings?
Yeah, you can go ahead and cut it off. Now, some people are tempted to take that cutting and stick it in the ground and try to grow a new plant, you know, form roots on it and try to grow a new plant. Here at Waterwise Botanicals, we always say, don't do that! Throw it in the trash! Don't ever look at it again, and then come buy more plants from us here, you know? And especially don't give it to your neighbors. It's just disgusting, you know, when people would have to come get a new plant from us. It's counterintuitive and counterproductive.
Yeah. Unless those neighbors get addicted, you know.
Well, you know.
Unless there's something like you and they get addicted, and that, look what happens if when you have an addiction to plants.
Yeah, then I'll have 500 competitors trying to do the same thing I'm doing. Okay, so we're kind of walking past a lot more perennials, some flowering shrubs, some specialty shrubs, and we're just kind of look over the edge here. You know, back in the day, Magellan would sail across the seas and was always afraid that he'd get to the edge and fall off. And we have that same fear here, because you've already been walking about a little more than a quarter of a mile, and we come to the edge of this flat area, and we're going to take a peek down at an area that people can sometimes walk through, not on weekends, but see what's really specifically a growing area.
Ooh.
And so we'll look over the edge, and you'll see 6 more acres of beautiful groups of plants contrasted by color, size, height, texture. And this is more of the growing grounds down here.
Wow.
And it's so pretty when you see it. It's like a mosaic pattern of tiles, you know, especially when it's shaped with the contours of the slope and everything like that. It's important to know that we're a wholesale nursery and a retail nursery. So people get a little confused sometime when they're way out here in the acres and they're going, well, I don't see names and I don't see labels and prices. It's impossible in the wholesale arena to do that. But we try to have representative samples of everything up at the front retail area that we call our rapid retail area. And also, people these days are still welcome to walk through. If they see something they like, they'll take a photograph of it, and a lot of times we can just serve them that way, tell them the name of the plant and the price on it, and it can be arranged for that way as well. So I think that kind of gives you a nice overlook of the nursery. We didn't visit the ponds yet. One of the biggest attractions that people love here is we have 2 ponds, and one pond is full of tropical fish.
Yeah.
And the other
like
pond is full of some of the most enormous catfish and stuff that you've ever seen. We tell people there's an alligator in there as well. It's an exaggeration, but it's fun.
Nice.
And it also keeps the kids more in line, you know, because we
Yeah.
threaten that they'll get thrown in. So this is a place of fun, enjoyment, and connection, both with just physical things, not digital things, and people and families. We love this place and love being here.
Were you in charge of the design, like where everything kind of belongs, and like that hill over there?
Mm-hmm.
Whose idea was that?
Well, I'll tell you, I was 9 years old and I caught pneumonia, and I was hospitalized for 2 or 3 weeks, and I literally sketched this layout pretty much.
Wow. I would have never guessed that.
How I wanted it to be a place for people to come to, not just a nursery. And you know, being an artist also, there's so much importance is the visual aspect.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you sense things and absorb things and remember things. So for example, we've always kept the profile of our plants all the way down the full length of center very low so that you can see the full length of it uninterrupted, and then our taller stuff is towards the sides. And then, yeah, what a great way to exhibit the color contrast of the different succulents. And those are solid succulents. Those are landscaping succulents. So people have slopes all the time they don't know what to do with. And they can be done in colors like that. And once they're established, there's very little to no maintenance other than weeds. And there's also very little water use once they're established. So it's a win-win all the way around. Yeah. And yeah, again, it's like colored mosaic tiles. It's just can't be more beautiful.
How would like, let's say you have a slope like that and you wanted to do something like that, would you have to get a ton of plants and plant them all at the same time? Or if you were patient, could you kind of just maybe get a few and then propagate and then do that?
It's really hard to get young plants and scrappy plants and get things established. So our plant prices are very reasonable. And when they take a group of succulents for a slope, these are plants that use space 4 to 6 to 8 feet apart when you plant them. And there's a solid fill usually within about 18 months.
Wow.
Oh, so that quick, huh? It's not as intensive as you think, and it's actually more cost effective than many slope treatments that have been done in the past or even recommended these days. Very easy care, very easy establishment, that fire safety aspect of it. And when that's established and thick, there's hardly even any weeds or anything. And also when it's established and thick, I mean, you know, water is incredibly expensive around here. So once it's established, you may only need to water it 3 or 4 times during the entire summer.
Wow.
And then the natural rains take over the other seasons and you're good to go. So it can be a huge savings in water as well.
Wow.
That would be so heavy, you could not move it. Even crane work.
Yeah, huh?
Because its weight so exceeds the weight of a tree of similar size. Alrighty. So,
wow.
You know, sometimes I'm not all that kind to my plants. For example, I'll walk out sometimes and I'll look at this plant and I'll say in a very harsh voice, "Euphorbia, why'd you grow so big?" Because it's a euphorbia. It's actually a cultivar of Euphorbia ingens, one of the candelabra species or giant arboreal species of a cactus-like succulent group in Africa. And we planted this little dude probably 20, 25 years ago, just like you'd get it from us in a little 5-gallon pot. And it did its own thing.
It sure did. How much do you think it weighs?
I think we ought to have a contest and have a great prize for anybody who can guess how much it weighs. But then you asked me how much it weighs, and I said, I don't know. But it's heavy, because all of those stems are full of, well, you could say in a way water. It's actually a milky sap. Mm-hmm. But weight-wise and liquid-wise, it's water. And water's heavy.
Yeah.
In fact, in this form of the latex that it contains, the latex is more dense than water. So would be heavier than that. Now, the interesting thing about this too is you can see seed pods on some of the tallest ones up about 50 feet there.
Oh, yeah.
So the Euphorbia sap is toxic. Can create a burning sensation on your skin. You really don't want to get it in your eyes. That hurts. And but the seeds are apparently really good to eat. So when those seed capsules start popping, which is what they do, they explode and throw seed all around, then it's a feast time for doves. Mourning doves come in and they're always on the ground all around the plants, scarfing up the seeds off of the ground. Wow. It's really kind of beautiful to watch.
That is.
But yeah, I would sure hate to have to ever move that or do anything with it.
Yeah.
Because that's way beyond heavy equipment and transport trucks.
Yeah.
Well, let's head on down here. I think it'd be fun to look at our soils.
Soil time.
Yeah.
You know, soils is probably one of the most asked about questions that I get. And yeah, I'm just excited to talk about soil. I feel like there's a lot of information on soil.
So soils are fascinating to me. They're really living organisms. You know, there's kind of a mineral and an organic base to it that's raw material. But soil becomes a living organism because it then has mycorrhizae, which are kinds of fungus growing in them, often mushrooms themselves, also bacteria, yeasts, just all kinds of different organisms live in soil. And so we manufacture our own soil here. If we look that direction a little bit, you'll see a snowy mountain,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you'll see a red volcanic cinder cone. Well, that's the two mineral elements of our soil that we use. The white is pumice that comes from a pumice mine up on your way to Mammoth Mountain. Also, the red scoria comes from volcanic activity in the same valley, in Owens Valley, and it's another volcano product. And they're ground to the right size that we want and consistency that makes a volcanic sand. The reason that that's important is because we like to have a lot of mineral component. When your soil is mostly organic, that's fine and fluffy for the first few months, but as it decomposes more and more, it shrinks down and just shrinks down and becomes less volume, more muck, doesn't drain as well, doesn't accept water as well when it gets dry. So when we have more mineral content to the soil, then it's a better soil. We have to use the lightweight soil because we could never afford to put that weight of a regular sand on our trucks when we do deliveries interstate and that kind of thing. So that's one of the big reasons I like for that. But also the volcanic sands breathe really well. You know, they drain well,
Yeah.
and they breathe well. And then the next thing that we do is we have the organic component. And we have one huge pile over there. And what that is we actually are helping the whole green waste recycling program, because we have a couple of very large tree trimming companies that come and are able to drop their chips at the end of the day. And so they go into the first pile over there,
Okay.
where we add some fertilizer and we add water and start the composting process. And then that comes to the next mountain over here, and this is what we like to call the digester. So a nursery like ours and a lot of businesses actually have a lot of solid waste, cardboard, paper. Nurseries have plant material, branches, different things like that. And so it's actually very expensive to send that stuff to the dump.
Yeah.
So not only are we saving a lot of money, but we're saving a lot of space in the landfill and solid waste cycle. And so we take some of the chips and we take some of our recycled soil that maybe we had a crop that, you know, there's leftovers or some of it died, it gets dumped back in, and it all gets remounted up here, and we add more fertilizer, and pretty soon this digests everything. It turns card paper into nothing. It turns paper into nothing. We take big stems and big plants that we're having to throw away that don't look good anymore, or we overgrew or something like that, and it literally just digests them up.
Wow.
And when I say digest, when our tractor plunges its shovel into here, its bucket, it's 160 degrees inside.
160 degrees inside?
That is the
Wow.
biological maximum. That's when all of those little organisms that have a body temperature combined get to a point where they start dying of their own heat.
Wow.
So 160 degrees is what's called the biological maximum. When our tractor plunges the bucket into this soil pile, steam just rises out. It's like
Wow.
crazy. It's so hot.
It's like
so
after I use the bathroom.
we thought that we would have open up a spa where people could just come and compost for a few hours, and we'll dig a hole and stick their bodies into it, and they can just, you know, like have the compost sauna experience.
I have a question. When it comes to some of the chips that you get, are there like yes and no's for the kind of chips you accept and that work versus
sure.
not?
There's some myths. Some of the myths are you can't have any pine and you can't have any eucalyptus. Completely false. Those compost beautifully, no problem. There's not any toxins that they have that would then pass on to your soil and problems for plants. The only thing you never want to get in your green waste cycle is palm trees, because palm trees have a seed that resists that 160 degree temperature that kills all other weeds and pathogens. And so when you take and spread it out and use it in your garden or plant in it, you'll have thousands and thousands of little baby stinking palm trees coming up everywhere, which are no longer palm trees, they're palm weeds.
Oh.
So that's a mess. Same thing with some varieties of Brazilian pepper tree and California pepper tree. That's the only things that we pretty much reject.
What do you
So
do with them if you have them?
we won't let them come in and dump any material that has
But
that
like,
in
let's say you're at your house somewhere far away, and you gotta throw it away.
Yeah, you can't compost it. I mean, you could still compost it, but you'll have all these seedlings by the hundreds or thousands come up in it. So it's really not a great recycle opportunity. So anyway, it goes from the digester to then a second mix here, and which is now empty because we just mixed and transferred again. And then it goes to a final mix here where we add more wood product, wood sawdust, more chips, and then finally it creates a finished pile that we plant everything that we grow in it. And this is also our bagged soil that we sell.
Oh, wow.
We call this chunky granola sweet because it's a little chunky, but it's such a good soil. It's sweet. It's really great. And so you can just see the richness of it, the good drainage of it. And again, if you just dig in, now it only can heat up when it's in a mass, like a pile. So don't think that if you have this kind of composting process going on, that your soil is going to get hot, like in a pot or in your garden or anything like that. It has to be in mass bulk like this to get that body temperature. But again, if we plunge the tractor bucket into this, it's 160 degrees inside. It's really amazing. And the microorganisms, if you were a biology student, I mean, they're discovering all kinds of beneficial things in medicine, in beneficial chemicals, and maybe finding biologicals that can eat plastic, and be solutions to the plastic problem that we have. There's just such an amazing biosphere that's contained in composting process. And in fact, when I was much younger and much broke, and I was my only employee in a very small nursery, I'd work night and day. And so I'd be out at night mixing soil with a shovel because I couldn't afford a tractor. And I had a pile that was pretty good sized. And I'm digging into it, and I take the pitchfork and I whump out a big chunk out of the pile, which then I would fill 5-gallon containers with. And when I did that, this most brilliant green light lit up because there was actually a bioluminescent fungus that was eating its way into the pile. And when I exposed it, it glowed so bright, this eerie green, that you literally could have read a comic book right there next to it in the nighttime. It was just totally fascinating. Another one that occurs is a lot of times because they vent the moisture and the heat up at the top like a little volcano. In the wintertime, sometimes that vent gets a lot of really cool fungus growing at the surface at the vent, and some of those are slime molds. And if you look up slime molds in artificial intelligence or Google it, you'll see that slime molds are actually an organized colony of a fungus that literally crawls. And we've had the slime molds start at the top, and this oozing amoeba-like mass of gelatinous fungus crawls and walks its way all the way down the side of the pile and then gets to the bottom and then dissolves and disappears into nothing. But it's totally fascinating.
Wow.
This is like a living body with a body temperature. I want to come with a big old thermometer and stick it right in its, and take its temperature,
So
totally
Tom,
fascinating.
If you were let's say some people watching this, they're not going to be able to right away come down to California. How would they make something that's similar like this at home if you were in Michigan or
No, anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
So I'm a country boy. I grew up in ranching, but when I found and married the sweet Jackie, we lived in Orange County, and she had a nice little home in a tract, and I had to adapt and adjust. And but you know what? We never had a speck of green waste go out of that house because I'd prune the trees, I'd prune the shrubs, I'd rake the leaves, I'd mow the lawn, everything. I had this just really nice little spot where it was my compost pile. And also, leftover lettuce, you don't put meat in there and stuff, but any kind of vegetables, lettuce, anything like that, rotten lettuce, rotten tomatoes, whatever, just put it all in. And it's amazing how little time it takes to start turning into just this beautiful, organic, rich, black, moist, loamy material. So no, this is not a scale opportunity only. It's something that anybody can do in a small yard, small home. If you just have a spot, that you just have some space where you can make your own little compost pile, and then you're constantly feeding it, constantly turning it, constantly taking out that beautiful, rich, black material from underneath, incorporate that into your garden, your vegetable garden. It's just magic. It's wonderful material.
Nice. Great tips. I like that.
Probably about, maybe 15, 20 years ago, a nursery went out of business. And sometimes in these different nurseries, somebody has a plant that was a result of, hybridization, or somebody got a plant from somebody. It's never been named or identified. There's just, it's a plant, might be the plant. And this is a classic example of the plant. This, one of the parents we know for sure is Espostua. And Espostuas are cold hardy, woolly cactus that live in the mountains of Peru and the Andes and Argentina. And so they're very cold hardy, which is kind of cool by itself. And so he said the nursery was going out of business, and my friend Manny said, look, there's just a couple of things you want to get before this nursery goes out of business. You need to get here tomorrow and buy them. So I did, and I got there, and one of them was this one beautiful plant. And we can tell from its makeup that one of the parents is Espostua. Well, we don't know exactly what the other parent is, but this is one of those plants that's a halo plant. When you see the sunlight backdropping it, either in the morning or the evening, it literally glows. So I started growing it from one single plant. Now we have hundreds.
Wow.
And hundreds in specimens. But when I was trying to come up with a name for it, the way that it looks so soft and so woolly and so, yeah, it brought to mind, for you Seinfeld fans, the episode of the cashmere sweater. And so all you got to do is look at these and say, it's cashmere, Georgie, cashmere. And so we named it Cashmere Columns. And it looks soft. It's actually pretty spiny inside of there.
Yeah, it is.
But boy, when you're like, it grows to be a big specimen, by the way. It'll grow to be 5 or 6 feet tall, like an organ pipe cactus with these multiple branches from the bases. And when you're driving, like say that's in a center median, someplace in Utah or New Mexico, and you're driving along and here's this woolly, silvery, glowing in the sunlight, cashmere columns. It's so spectacular, it'll just blow you away.
Yeah.
And you might see it with snow on it in the wintertime, and it's absolutely fine. So this is one of our new introductions, Espostua hybrid cashmere Georgie columns.
I love it. Love it. Nice.
Well, I think that's kind of a wrap.
Yeah.
And I so much appreciate you guys visit out here. I so much appreciate getting to meet you and know you. And I know that you and I are going to collaborate quite a lot.
A lot of great stuff to come.
And the nice thing about it is we don't do mail order.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be able to present a lot of our material nationally, and people will have access to some of the really wonderful varieties and special plants that we have, and especially notably the plants materials that can resist some cold, which extends into many states now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have cactus that are hardy in Arkansas, the Dakotas. It's just the only thing where they suffer a little bit is in Florida, where there's so much rain and humidity. That may be one of the states that's a little prohibitive, or getting all the way up into Minnesota. Again, it's mainly the moisture combined with the cold.
Yeah.
If it's super heavy, becomes a little bit difficult. But on a patio, you can prevent the moisture.
Control it yourself.
And remember, some of the varieties we grow in Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a wonderful variety of plant materials that you can present and make available. And we love doing the growing here and then getting that to you so you can get it to them.
Exactly. Yeah, well, if you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment, and we can get you some answers. Like I said, Tom's got a wealth of knowledge here. So one, thank you so much for doing this with me.
My pleasure.
And it's going to be fun to bring you guys just along this journey on what we do, bringing you guys cool plants and, seeing where this thing takes us. So until next time, peace.